There's a number that quietly decides whether your life feels stressful or under control. Not $1 million, not six figures, just one number. And if you don't have it yet, there is a very high chance you feel it every single day, even if you can't explain why. It shows up when you hesitate before buying something small, when your phone buzzes with a bill notification, when your car makes weird noise and your stomachs drop instantly. That feeling, that's not bad luck. That's what life feels like when you are below a certain financial line. And almost nobody talks about where that line actually is. Here is the surprising part. For most people, that line sits somewhere around $20,000 and savings or investments. And no, this is not about being rich. This is about something way more important. Once you cross that number, your relationship with money starts to change in ways that are hard to explain until you experience it. Now moving to the first part of the video, the invisible pressure. Let's talk about something most people don't admit. Living without savings does not just affect your bank account, it affects how you think. When you are close to zero or constantly resetting back to it, your brain operates differently. You become more cautious, more reactive, more focused on avoiding loss than creating gain. You don't take risks not because you are lazy, but because you can't afford to. And that pressure builds quietly. It shows up in small ways. You delay decisions, you overthink simple purchases, you stay in situations longer than you should, not because you want to, but because living feels dangerous. That's what financial stress really is. It's not just about money, it's about lack of options. Now, here is where things start to shift. Crossing the line. Something interesting happens when you build a financial buffer. Not instantly, not dramatically, but gradually, and then all at once. You stop feeling like every decision could hurt you. Instead of thinking, can I afford this? You start thinking, is this worth it? That's completely different mindset. And it doesn't come from earning more, it comes from having space, financial breathing room. So there's a third part. Why $20,000? So why $20,000? Why not 500,000 or $10,000? Because for most people in the US or UK, this number represents something very specific, roughly 3 to 6 months of living expenses. That's not luxury, that's stability. It means you can handle unexpected problems, you can take time to make better decisions, you are not forced into the first option available, and that changes everything. So, moving to point number 4, the mental shift. Let's make this real. Imagine two people, same job, same income, same lifestyle. The only difference, one has $500 in saving, the other has $20,000 and has savings. Now something goes wrong. Car breaks down, unexpected bill, job uncertainty. The first person feels panic. The second person feels inconvenience. Same problem, completely different experience. That's the power of having a buffer. Now moving to point number 4, control versus reaction. When you don't have savings, life controls you. When you do, you start controlling life. You don't rush decisions. You don't jump at every opportunity. You choose. And that ability to choose calmly is what starts separating people over time. But this is not just about feeling better. There is something else happening behind the scenes. Point number 6. Money starts working. At lower amount, money feels static. You save it and it just sits there. But as the number grows, something subtle starts to happen. Your money begins to move. Even simple investments, index funds, basic portfolios start producing noticeable return. Not life changing at first, but enough to shift your perspective. Instead of thinking, I earned this money, you start thinking, my money earned this. And that's a powerful moment. Point number 7, momentum. Building the first $20,000 is slow. It takes discipline. Saying no when it's easier to say yes. But once you get there, progress feels different. Because now you are not starting from zero anymore, you are building on top of something. And momentum starts to build. Moving to point number 8, the identity shift. Here is the part most people overlook. Saving $20,000 doesn't just change your finance, it changes how you see yourself. You become someone who think long term, delays gratification, makes intentional decision. That identity matters more than the money itself because once you become the person, you don't go backward easily. But there's a mistake that can undo all of this, and a lot of people make it right here. The trap. They finally build savings and then they spend it, not irresponsibly, just emotionally. They feel like they have earned it, so they upgrade something, a car, a lifestyle, a habit, and slowly the buffer disappears. Not overnight, but enough to fall back into pressure. That's why this number matters, because it's not a finish line, it's a foundation. Opportunities appears when you have financial stability, something interesting happens. You start noticing opportunities you couldn't see before, not because they suddenly appear, but because you're finally in a position to act on them. You can invest in yourself, take calculated risks, explore better options, and over time, those decisions compound. Another shift happens here. You stop obsessing over small expenses and start focusing on big ones because you realize something important. It's not the coffee, it's the rent, it's not the subscription, it's the lifestyle. And once your attention and once your attention shifts to bigger decisions, your progress accelerates. This also affects how you work. When you are financially stretched, your job feels like survival. When you have savings, it becomes a strategy. You are more confident, more selective, more willing to improve your situation, and that often leads to better outcomes. Not instantly, but consistently. This creates a gap, not just in money, but in mindset. One person is reacting, the other is building, and years later, the difference becomes obvious. Let's be clear, $20,000 won't make you rich. It won't solve every problem, but it will do something incredibly valuable. It will give you space, and space allows better decisions. Better decisions lead to better outcomes, and that's how real progress happens. Most people spends years trying to increase their income without realizing they are missing the foundation. Because before you build wealth, you need stability. And for many people, that stability starts at one simple number. Not perfect, not magical, just enough to change how you think, act, and move. So, if you are not there yet, don't rush, but don't ignore it either, because once you cross that line, you will understand why it matters.